Hello, everybody. It is the 24th, and I actually don't know what sections I said I was ready, and I was not ready.
I knew the moment he didn't prep you at all, I was like, this is going to be hilarious.
I knew it was the 24th, but I couldn't remember like what sections.
Listen, November's gone and I'm dying, so I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you should clarify that because obviously people are going to notice something's a little different this week.
I think I'm having an allergy attack, but just in case, I'm isolating. So here we are.
Welcome to me since March.
Also, just in case, it's been nice knowing you all. I love you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the support.
This has been an amazing and wild ride. I never would have thought it possible, but yeah, it's probably fine. But
we shouldn't be laughing at that.
Yeah, it probably is just allergies. My allergies have been acting up as well, so.
And Krista, we should point out that you are fine. You just you plan poorly.
I planned poorly. We even had a little extra time today because Wendell couldn't get in till like 2, and I was like, that's fine. Like, I'll go up and, start the laptop like normally. And then Windows was like, no, updates, just updates all the time. So I'm on my other computer, which is in an office I share with my husband. So I can't have the camera on right now.
I feel like if I were a little bit, more well prepared and a little bit more amazing for situations when Krista doesn't have the camera, we could just have another angle on Stacy, and whenever Krista's talking, I could just switch to that angle, and it's just the immovable mannequin head.
It's just the mannequin talking.
So one of those face rigs would be great for that.
It's
yeah, like the cat.
Well, that but she doesn't have a camera, so.
Oh, that's right. It has to map to the.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a government and security today. That's the missing information.
So with that, we can dive into the first story, I guess, because, stuff. The FCC takes spectrum from an auto industry in a plan to supersize Wi-Fi. So this is a little convoluted. It sounded like the auto industry was saying, we've got this relatively small amount of spectrum that is adjacent to the 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi, like the 5 point whatever Wi-Fi, and it's not really enough for car-to-car communication, but we haven't figured out what we're going to do with that. And Ajit Pai was like, yeah, let's use that for Wi-Fi, and the auto industry was like, wait, we didn't say we weren't going to use it, we just said it wasn't enough bandwidth for car-to-car communication. Was that your take on it?
Well, I think there's something unspoken here. But so they said that 99.9 something, there's a tiny amount of cars that actually have this. I don't know why that is, but the thing that's suspicious to me is, why are they pushing this through? Because they talk about how at the end of a lame duck presidency, the FCC basically just stops doing anything until the next one comes in, because we don't want to just undo stuff. But Pi is pushing this through. So is this something that the internet companies have oh, we got all these new routers, but you have to push this through right now, or this is wasted R&D. Go do this immediately. I wonder if there's something like that there. Because why would you do this? It seems like such a small thing to do.
It's not a dramatic amount more bandwidth. It's only a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
45 megahertz in the 5 gigahertz band, so not a lot.
But if you have a product that requires that, because you assumed that you were going to get it through.
Speaking of things that have hidden meanings or hidden consequences, I guess, Vice has an article, which is how the U.S. military buys location data from ordinary apps. A Muslim prayer app with over 98 million downloads. Turns out that was a vehicle for surveillance by the U.S. government. What?
You're wondering why you would need that? Well, it tells you when to pray and what direction Mecca is based on where you are. So for that, you get surveilled constantly.
I wonder if the direction to Mecca, if they take into account, if it's just a cardinal direction, or if it takes into account the curvature of the Earth, knowing that you could, the shortest distance might actually be, a parabola.
I think it's as the bird flies type of thing with that, right? I think in terms of launching prayers, you don't worry about that kind of thing. They can penetrate through the Earth.
Now you might be thinking this is just this one prayer app is how this happened, right? No, it's a library. A lot of companies that offer free libraries it's a little bit monkey's paw, a little bit needful things where it's like, here, you take this. And it's like, oh, there was an unintended consequence of that. So an unintended consequence of the location library is that your location may be shared with other people, and also the app in which it got the location. So in this case, it was select location from database where app equal Muslim prayer app. It's like, where are all these people praying?
They had a couple of other ones too. So it's not just Muslims they're tracking everyone.
Yeah.
And some of the other apps are more generic. So don't think that just because it's, it's like, oh, well, I'm not one of those people, this doesn't affect me. It very well could.
Yeah, this literally affects everybody. Most of the applications on Android are really data sharey, which is perhaps very bad. So, our next article. This is awesome. The Pentagon expects to fail another audit, but says progress is being made. Your tax dollars at work. So it turns out that the Pentagon spends so much money that it has no idea how much it spends or where everything else actually goes. So
I love their argument here. It's like, look, we spend $2.9 trillion a year. You can't keep track of that.
it's true. Even if you could keep track of that, even if you built some sort of amazing super application that was able to use AI and actually track all of the contracts in and out of MoCAS, for DFAS, that even if you had that, they're like, wow, this is really scary. You're really exposing where the bodies are buried. We should definitely not use this. It's really frustrating.
I don't think they run the pallets of hundreds through that.
I wonder what the invoice for that looks like. It's like, we're going to need another number 37 on the ground in Baghdad, stat. It's like, oh, okay. That makes sense.
I like in this article too, they're like, we've made a lot of progress, but because of the thing, the pandemic, we can't be expected to do our jobs.
Yeah, they've never passed one, but it's the pandemic.
Yeah.
No, if you dig into this and you dig into the whole government contracting thing, like, I'm surprised that whoever wrote the article really didn't do their homework here, because the last round of that, they fired a ton of people that handle the information systems into that because they were like self-dealing and double dealing. I mean, it was a huge mess. So this is pretty much par for the course, I guess. I don't know.
I think the reason they didn't do that is because NextGov likes the level of access that they have, and they know they will lose that.
Yeah, so that's fun. Our next article. After 12,523 replacement, feds investigate Tesla media control unit failures. After about 3,000 write cycles, its eMMC NAND flash memory complete failure occurs. Now, you may be thinking this is a repeat. We've actually covered this before, but this the last time this came up, Tesla said, oh no, we pushed a firmware update to mitigate this issue because what was happening was tons and tons of log files were being generated by the Teslas, and that was wearing out the flash prematurely because, in the beginning they didn't log a bunch of stuff, and now they log everything. So, woo? Did I lose you guys?
No, you covered it.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine.
I don't know. I mean, what else is there? We've covered this before, but the new thing is like, okay, now they're being investigated.
And then, some bribes will happen and it won't matter.
I guess. I don't know. Next up is the Michigan news. UniversityofMichigan.edu. Extremely aggressive internet censorship spreads in the world's democracies. Do you think maybe, it's interesting this is coming out of Michigan?
I had the same thought. I was like, oh, is this coming from those people?
But they don't list the U.S. as one of those. I mean, they kind of give a little bit of lip service. It's like, yeah, the U.S. maybe, but no, they list Norway, Japan, Italy, India, Israel, and Poland.
Yeah. And it's really to do with DNS filtering and all that stuff. It's like, hey, for surprisingly well-developed and educated countries, things are crazy. But if you look at Cuba, everything is like rampant piracy in Cuba. You can get anything, even though their internet connection is kind of crappy.
And this guy, Ram Sundara Raman, who is the University of Michigan doctoral candidate who's doing this, he points out something that we talk about with all of the horrible stories. We're seeing that many countries start with legislation that compels ISPs to block something that's obviously bad, like child pornography or pirated content, but then it just keeps going.
Yeah. That's definitely not happened here. Oh, wait.
We literally can't say the name of the thing that is ravaging the world.
Well, that's not the government doing that. That's something else. But,
That's YouTube's aggressive monetization policy.
But still, I mean, it's kind of funny that, you know, I got a, I would say an R-rated ad the other day, and it's like, wow, really? YouTube? Double standard much? Okay.
That used to be the norm on the internet. Do you remember that? Like all the pop-up ads, and it was always like for pornography sites.
Yeah.
And then that went away, and now we're back to it.
Yeah. Well, good news out of Canada, at least. Companies could face hefty fines under new Canadian privacy law.
Sorry.
Rue's excited about that.
Rue hates Canadian privacy.
Rue has no sense of personal space, so that tracks for her.
Navdeep Bains is introduced the Digital Charter Implementation Act. I was a little surprised here. The fines are $25 million or 5% of your gross revenue, something like that. Global revenue, yeah, 5% or 25, whichever is greater. So, yeah, you're a small mom and pop shop and you don't follow the rules. $25 million.
And it gets rid of that whole thing where they can sort of just snow blind you with a giant wall of text to get you to agree with your. It's like, hey, we can sell your data, right? It also flat out bans certain sales of data. Like you can't even agree to it. So that's probably good.
So it's kind of nice compared to here, where everything's for sale.
Yeah, I don't know if you could really. I don't know how you would do business with those companies and opt out. I mean, this seems like something where Facebook would just nope out of Canada.
But there, I mean, that noose is tightening though, because like a lot of nations are introducing laws like this.
Yeah, but you still be better off. Because I mean, 25 million every time you break that, and Facebook's probably breaking it every 30 seconds.
Yeah. What a mess. Let's see. Okay, our next story. The UK should revisit the 5G ban now that Trump is defeated, says Huawei. The fox really should be let in the hen house now that the guard dog is away. I don't know. It's not the best analogy.
Well, this is straight up. I put this in government. It's really just the guy from Huawei trying to do a little lobbying here, I think. Yeah. But I wonder if maybe he'll get a little traction because I think Trump's threats were a huge part of this whole thing.
Well, the UK found, that it was dangerously insecure. It still remains to be seen. Is it dangerously insecure because of shoddy engineering or dangerously insecure because of Communist Party influence? Those things may not be mutually exclusive.
He's arguing that, hey, you said yourself this is going to set you back like 5 years. Why don't we just pretend that never happened?
I think as a matter of strategy, it is really interesting to turn capitalism in on itself, though. I mean, if you're willing to build a company, like if you're willing to use nation-state resources, a wealthy nation-state at that, to invest nation-state resources in a company that on the face of it looks to be competing capitalistically, but in reality is not competing capitalistically, that is a really interesting way to make capitalism eat itself.
Kind of like pretending that you have this really amazing manufacturing base and secretly you're making tanks and planes.
Yeah.
There was a guy that did that.
Yeah. Speaking, that may be like foreshadowing for the next thing, which is Asia has formed the world's biggest trade bloc. Asia as a single unit. Not really. It kind of makes sense when you read the article, because when I read this headline, it was just like, what? A China-backed group excluding the U.S. So this is RCEP, I think is how this is pronounced. And it may cement China's position more firmly as an economic partner with Southeast Asia, Japan, and Korea. See, what the U.S. has been doing is sort of been sowing seeds of dissent among all these Asian countries, but we can kind of try to be friends with them all, in the U.S. But, yeah, I don't This is probably good economically, but the U.S., one of the things they cited was like the U.S. is going to be struggling with recovery from this thing for a while, and we need to get our economies back on track because we've already dealt with that, which is maybe not untrue. Okay, I'll go. Moving right along.
I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, I guess, it sounds scary by the headline where it's like excluding the US, but I mean, we have, North American trade agreements that don't include countries from Asia. So, I mean, is that really a big deal?
Oh, China's getting more power. Pretty soon they're not going to be using the dollar for all of their foreign. Like, we can't have that. Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. Massive China state-funded hack hits companies around the world, the report says. Attackers are linked to Cicada, a group believed to be funded by the Chinese state. So this article talks a little bit about some of the recent vulnerabilities and how they have been exploited, targeting companies around the world. This is kind of what happens in like the metagame. It's like there's a security issue that is found, and then there's groups like Cicada that have a short list of all the companies they wanted in. And they can't break into them because those companies do their security reasonably well. So they just wait for a vulnerability to be discovered in something those companies use or something that those companies have that's exposed to the internet. And the second that vulnerability drops, they try to exploit it. And maybe they can outrun the administrators inside those companies to gain access inside the network.
Does Cicada only pop up every 17 years?
That would be nice, but as it stands, there's just sort of a background hum of insanity from them all the time.
They pop up when a new vulnerability is found.
Is it always 17 years, or is it like every 3 years? I think it depends on the type, right?
Yeah, it's usually a prime number, but not always. Spooky. I don't know. This didn't really seem to be, like, did you get anything else out of this? Because it didn't really seem to have a lot of new information. It's more just like, if you don't understand the whole, 0-day exploit thing, there's this thing that's going on that's sort of becoming like the MO for how state-sponsored malware stuff, sort of gets a foothold in different industries.
Yeah, well, I think it's partly that and partly, like the Chinese threat is a great headline.
Yeah.
Because is it really, though? I mean, do they just want... Some of the threats here are not trying to do economic sabotage as much as they are trying to make sure that they're abreast of all Western intellectual property so they can then exploit that commercially, which is maybe a different thing. It's like they don't want to wreck our nuclear power plants and make our power grid go crazy. They just want to know exactly how to build the latest Nikes, I guess. They probably
want both of those things.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they wouldn't mind having in their back pocket just in case that war ever starts.
We need the secret formula for Coke. Quick. Send pictures of, somebody's daughter to themselves or something.
Mods are asleep. Send Coke recipe.
Yeah. So, I don't know. This is a rare bit of good news, maybe. Google is rolling out end-to-end encryption for RCS and Android Messages beta. This entire article is almost entirely about how much trouble Android had getting regular carriers to do literally anything with regard to SMS security. That makes me sad that there's confirmation that it's as terrible as it seems on the surface.
And will Apple swallow their pride and take on Google's technology?
For end-to-end encryption?
Right, for RCS.
I don't know. There's still a weird situation where if you've got an iPhone and you've got iMessage and then you do away with your iPhone, unless you disenroll the iPhone from iMessage, anybody that's got an iPhone that's sending you messages, the messages just go to a black hole. You don't get them on your phone. And Apple's like, yeah, that's by design. So,
well, it's secure. You can't argue that it's not.
I like the example text they have here. Did you catch the game? Yes. It was so fun to watch. I know it was such a close game. So happy we won.
That could have been code, Krista. That could have been like the Capistrano flies south through the winter, and it's like, yes,
Yes.
the north wind blows, and it's like that's like a exchange counter exchange for like a spy thing. I mean, come on. I don't know. Sorry, this episode of the news is terrible. I'm trying. I'm trying to keep it together.
Are you robo-tripping yet?
No, if I had some, I probably would though. Starting next year, Chrome extensions will show you what data they collect from users. The only thing that I can think of reading this article was, why doesn't it do it now?
It takes time to roll out such an amazing thing. If you go down to the bullet points there, I do love that they are now saying no matter what, you can't do these 3 things. Which again, why did this take this long?
Why? Yeah. That rant that I do about every 3 weeks, where it's like Android, Java sandboxes, why? And Google's like, yeah, we're getting around to it. The use or transfer of user data for personalized advertising. That was okay up till now.
How many extensions do you think this makes no longer commercially viable?
All of them. You can't monetize it any other way. Like, you can't have a subscription. It can't be a paid extension.
What is Muslim Pro going to do?
Sell your location data to the U.S. government.
But you're not allowed to do that. I guess that's an app, not an extension.
Yeah, I wonder if some version of that is not prohibited by these terms of service. That's kind of funny. You know what else the terms of service prohibits? Using a bad password. But, well, ZDNet has the article about the worst passwords of 2020 show that we are just as lazy about security ever. Can't we do any better than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? So with blogs like Troy Hunt's blog and the Have I Been Pwned thing, they are able to look through all of the passwords from all of these leaks, because people will crack the passwords. And the passwords are still terrible. Like the new fresh leaks of 2020, the passwords are all bad.
Like MAGA 2020.
So what is number 10 there is the new one on the list. SENHA, Senha. I'm assuming that's a foreign language?
Yeah, that is weird.
Engagement challenge?
You know what? I have Google here. I could
Google
look it up.
Picture 1 is also popular. What does that mean?
Oh yeah. It's Portuguese for password.
Wow.
Perfect. Time to crack it, 10 seconds.
Well, this shows that we might not have any security, but we have diversity. Also, I like that Pokemon was in the top 25.
Why Portuguese though? Like, I would think that would be a fairly small percentage of.
Maybe it's one of those
people who speak Portuguese. But maybe I'm imagining that.
Maybe it's one of those words that's shared in Spanish and Portuguese.
Oh yeah, maybe that would make more sense.
What a mess. The Register has our next story, which is micropayments company Coil distributes new privacy policy with an email that put users' addresses in the to field. So they sent their entire list of users to their email list server provider thing, and so the to field contained thousands of different users. So if you got an email from Coil saying, hey, we changed your privacy policy, you learned about thousands of other users of Coil, which is sort of the opposite of privacy.
Do you think this... I mean, they probably used an external email service for this, right?
Yes.
So do you think this was a situation where, like, the developers, they're like, okay, here's the list, and here's our draft, and the staff was like, no, we have to touch that up a little bit, and then the staff sent it? Or do you think this was a mistake from lower down?
It's hard for me to imagine that they have a mailing list service that would let you send a to message to this many people, because most of the ones that I'm familiar with literally will not let you do this. This is kind of like, Visa sending everybody an Excel spreadsheet with like, here's the spreadsheet of everybody's credit card numbers. Find yours. Good luck.
Yeah, it definitely gives you, because when you go to the Pwn database, for example, let's say you pull it off the dark web, and you're like, all right, I got this person's email address, and I've got their password, but where do I attack? And now you know exactly which website to attack.
Yeah. Sort of a big oops in terms of privacy there. Speaking of things that don't make any sense, Reuters has this article, which is Apple hits back at European activist that complains against tracking tool. So what was your takeaway from this? Because mine was basically that he's got a point, and Apple is being very pedantic.
Well, I think maybe he has a. So this is about the IDFA, the advertising identifier, and he's saying because of the advertising identifier, you are tracking me because everything I do on my iPhone is that. But what Apple is saying is, hey, we read your laws really, really closely, and we're very confident that we are not breaking them. So I think they both could be right, maybe.
He's saying that if you have this identifier and applications can access it, then it will be abused. So why do you have it? And Apple is saying it's not against the law to have the identifier, only to use it. And it seems that that argument comes across as disingenuous to me.
And they're also saying that we don't track it the way that you're describing. They're not saying that no one else can do that, but they're saying they don't do that.
Yeah, so seems like if Apple were in a position to, I don't know, suppose you had like an iPhone, and if you were within proximity of an iPhone, you could send it a malformed message to cause the battery to explode. Technically, I guess Apple wouldn't be responsible for the battery exploding, but they could do just the most tiny, minor amount of work to block receiving that kind of messages, and then the battery doesn't explode anymore. Seems like they should do that.
I don't think that's a good analogy. I think the better analogy would be I could load and rack the slide on a pistol and put it down in the daycare. But it's not my responsibility what would happen with that pistol.
So what you're saying is app developers are petulant children? Because I would agree with that.
I would say irresponsible adults, right?
Or just criminals. I mean, we've seen plenty of that.
It's just, it's a mess. Got another Apple story in the Apple block, which is Mac certificates check stokes fears that Apple logs every app that you run. We reported on this last week, and it turns out that these hashes that are going to Apple in an unencrypted fashion are not for individual applications. They go with the developer. And this article doesn't cover a lot of really important aspects of that. But the one aspect that it does cover is to say, no, Apple's not getting your applications. They're just getting the developer that you're running. And it does kind of point out that, for things like Tor and Firefox and stuff like that, you can kind of figure out which application somebody is running because there's not a ton of applications running with a particular certificate fingerprint.
This was very apologist.
Yes.
I wonder if maybe somebody at Apple has a relationship with Dan Gooden and they made a phone call.
Yeah. I don't understand why Apple wouldn't, the list of revoked certificates can't be that big. Why wouldn't you just send that to devices check in on a daily basis or a couple of times a day, and you just add and remove the certificates that have been blacklisted? That seems like that would be way less traffic and way less invasive and way better from a technical standpoint than sending information to Apple literally every time you do anything. This article also seems to say that it does that same kind of checking. Safari does that same kind of checking when you load a web browser for a web page. And it was like, wait, Apple is also checking your SSL certificates in real time and it's not updating. Oh, that seems like a mess. I guess
now I'm down the Dan Gooden rabbit hole in the same way that we often look at Kyle Wigger's profile.
Dan Gooden is a shadow of the man that Kyle Wiggers is. How dare you even suggest?
Dan Gooden is a security editor at Ars Technica, journalist with more than 15 years of experience. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in English.
Yeah, he's definitely got one of those M1 MacBook Airs on the way.
Probably several.
We'll talk about those more in the business section, but
Dan Gooden's Christmas shopping is complete.
All right.
Did you think he managed to get a PS5?
No,
because Apple doesn't sell those.
Yeah.
That's true. Maybe you could trade the Apple.
Speaking of data breaches, software vendor says data breach exposed nearly 28 million Texas driver's license records. This was on the Hill. There wasn't really a lot. I guess it's just, it's like, another week, another breach. This is our breach of the week, I guess. Yeah.
Well, this was another third-party company. Yeah. It wasn't them. They were quick to point out, it's like, no, we didn't lose this.
But we did sell those data to the third-party company.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, do you think maybe we shouldn't have sold that data? Should have anonymized it just a little bit before we sold it? No.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's another. That's going to be another column in the old dark web profile that you have. It's going to be real easy to steal your identity.
Technically, our next post is just a write-up about a breach, but this breach didn't happen this week. I think we reported on this as it was happening. Gosh, it's been several months ago, but the extent of the breach was not known because it was so complete. But Threat Post has the write-up. Millions of hotel guests worldwide caught in a mass data leak. So it turns out a lot of hotels use the same software for managing stuff, cloud hospitality. They were compromised thoroughly and completely. So 1 month's data was 24.4 gig. And this is not the first time. Some of the records go back to 2013.
I don't think they were even compromised, were they? I think it was just open.
Yeah, they had an S3 bucket that had information in it. But yeah, this time was just a bucket.
No password.
Yeah. What a mess.
Well, maybe on the bright side, people aren't really traveling this year. Maybe there's less stuff to be breached. Maybe.
No, it had a lot of data from August. That was what was surprised. The article talked about how they found a bunch of, and it was like, oh, a lot of people were traveling in August.
I thought it goes back to 2013.
Oh,
Some of it does, yeah. But most of the data was from 180,000 records from August 2020 alone. Yeah, that's what I was remembering. So, yeah, that's a breach. What do we got for tomorrow? Business and...
I've instantly forgotten.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think it's robot. Yeah, business and robot.
Business and robot. Oh, we got a lot of robot. Flippy's doing exceptionally well.
2020's year of Flippy.
It really is.
We don't have a Flippy story. What are you talking about?
We do.
We do?
Don't we? I thought we did.
Oh, wait, are we lying?
I don't remember a Flippy story.
I wonder.
You know what? Looking at the one tab now, I don't know that we do have a Flippy story. You might be thinking of last week.
I got sucked. No, I know which one it is now. It was one of our other robot stories. And there's a Flippy follow-up in like the bottom or the corner or something. He's wearing like a fabric sock. And it's like, oh, he makes 19 items and blah, blah, blah. And he's installed in like a moving rack, but he's got a fabric sock. And it was a follow-up to a story that we did a couple of weeks ago. And they're really happy with Flippy. So maybe that won't be in the robot section, but it's fun.
Well, what kind of monster wouldn't be happy with Flippy?
Yeah, I mean, well, the first version of Flippy wasn't that great. All Flippy could do was flip. But now he can make onion rings and all kinds of things. So, I don't know.
That's more than I could do.
Did you come out of the womb walking? No.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
See ya. Are we here? I didn't know. Like, I saw you were still moving the mouse around. It's the 26th. It's technically Thanksgiving here in the U.S., and today we're doing business and robot.
I'm quarantining this week because allergies? I don't know.
Hopefully allergies. Probably allergies.
I believe it is the 25th and not Thanksgiving.
Wait, is it the 25th?
Oh, yeah, it's Wednesday. It's only Wednesday.
Thursday we do not produce news.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, I totally mixed that up. My contacts are messed up. Don't blame me for my obvious failings.
Do your contacts affect your perception of time and dates?
I did think last night I was getting in bed and I was like, okay, tomorrow's Thursday. And my husband looked at me and he was like, no, tomorrow's Friday. I was like, what? I feel like this week just was like a warp. It went really quick.
All of November was a warp that went really quick. November's basically done.
Yeah.
It can't be salvaged.
Krista, have you settled? I think we talked about this on the news, but have you settled your family's Thanksgiving plans? Because you seem to be the sour grape.
I am the sour grape. I think at this point it's settled, but my mom called me earlier and I have not called her back yet. We have a family member in the ICU right now too, so it may be canceled. We'll see. Not great. Not a great time.
Yeah, definitely not a great time.
Anyway, now that I've kind of brought the mood down.
I probably shouldn't have brought that up.
Sorry, everybody.
You know what? You know what's going to be great in my dying days? No, I'm not. It's not the thing. I'm pretty sure it's allergies. But if it were, I would definitely be enjoying the last few days with the Radeon RX 6800 and 6800 XT. AMD is back with Big Navi. So Hot Hardware has an article. We did a video. There's lots of fun, exciting things. I had really good luck out of mine. I mean, I only had a 3090 to compare it to, and I was extremely impressed with it because it cost less than half of a 3090, and it was close enough to the same speed. How about that?
I think the big thing here, I don't think they're going to beat NVIDIA in raw numbers, but they're very close. And I think the thing that people are overlooking here is if you're buying them to play games, if you're buying them for some other reason, it doesn't matter. But if you're buying them to play games, we're in a world now where the consoles are wagging the tail of PC gaming. It's disgusting, but that's where we are. And guess what's in the consoles?
Yeah.
So the developers are going to be developing for AMD first.
Yeah. Although I was surprised that ray tracing performance was a little weaker on these, and where NVIDIA is branching out and they've got like tensor cores and all sorts of other specialized compute on the silicon, AMD doesn't really have any of that. But also the amount of silicon that they have is smaller, and it looks like AMD is poised to have less supply issues than NVIDIA. Although right now you can't really buy either card because there are shortages.
Can't buy a console either.
You can't buy toilet paper where we are, so...
Is it bad again?
Yeah, it's
they're
real bad.
limiting again. They had it when I went, but they're limiting, yeah.
Well, they've been limiting like soap and stuff for a while. We haven't been to the store in a little bit, but...
They let me buy 3 things of Lysol wipes, and I was so happy. So it was like 3 of the 2 packs, and I was like, they're going to say something to me when I check out, and they didn't.
I mean, at that point, like if you're the cashier, is it even worth it to like bring it up anymore?
One thing about the 6800, no disinfectant qualities whatsoever.
Nah. Oh, it gets pretty warm. I bet that would disinfect because it's so hot that nothing biological can survive.
Yeah, we need to test that against the vid.
Play about 15 minutes of any really intense game, and then yank it out of your computer and like hold it to your forehead, like brand your forehead. That's what we're looking for. So, our next story is something that we've pointed out repeatedly that would happen, and it's finally happening. From Ars Technica, it says broadband power users explode, making data caps more profitable for ISPs. Usage increase quote unquote confirms the value of data caps for ISP revenue, a vendor says. Yeah, the whole point of the caps was not scarcity of the resource. It was to grift you, to charge more money, because there's no competition, because the value of the ISP is not in giving you good service. It's wringing as much money out of you as they possibly can. That's the whole point of ISPs anymore. It's not to be a good internet provider. It's to wring money out of you.
The tone of this article, so not the Ars Technica article, but it is Open Vault who has released a study. And Open Vault, the way that they sort of position this is, wow, this is really good news. Because now that people are using more and more, we can charge them more and more. Not the state of the industry is changing, we need to adapt because people need more bandwidth. No. This is great news. And the 2 terabyte users are also growing at a huge pace.
Yeah.
What does a terabyte of overage cost these days? Isn't that ridiculous?
It's like $100.
Wow.
Yeah. I told you there's been so many mergers and acquisitions that cost so far into the billions of dollars. There's a finite number of subscribers. Like, people only have so much disposable income, and they need the internet to work. You can literally charge them anything, and they have to pay it if they're going to work from home. But they're also getting more and more pissed off.
I mean, even if you're like an essential worker, though, and you're not working from home, if you have children, they have to, work remotely on their schoolwork. So again, you will pay whatever it is. Like, I don't think anyone at this point can say, oh, I don't need internet.
It pains me to perhaps make a concession, or at least point out that when the telephone was sort of becoming in vogue in like the 1930s and 40s, people were looking around and they're like, everybody needs a telephone. And it wasn't really maybe super questioned. I don't know, because we ran telephone lines everywhere. There are outhouses in the middle of nowhere in eastern Kentucky, and they still have telephone infrastructure that was put there in like the 1940s and 1950s. And I can't say the same for internet infrastructure. And the internet infrastructure is perhaps as important, if not more important, than the telephone.
The internet is not coming into vogue. It's been here.
Yeah.
It's been in vogue for 20 years.
It's an integral part of everyone's daily life.
Yeah.
I don't think that analogy stands at all.
Well, I
It
mean,
should
if
be
the phone
utility.
was an integral part of your life, then perhaps a network connection of some type.
But I'm saying that we've had time
Yeah,
to build that infrastructure. We just simply haven't.
yeah. And
It's not like
very
it's
sad.
not an issue of like, oh, we're going to do that. We just haven't had time. We've been so busy.
We really
They've
haven't been
literally
that
gotten
busy.
funding to build it, and they just chose not to.
Yeah,
Here's
it
the
was-
here's the $1 million question: does Starlink charge overage, or will they?
oh, they probably will.
Yeah, I say almost certainly they will, because they'll see the same thing. They'll see it's a cash cow.
Yep.
They might have a little bit more of an excuse to do that because it's like there's a finite amount of satellite bandwidth.
Yeah. Whereas if we had fiber optic everywhere, as we are supposed to have, as we as taxpayers have paid for, it wouldn't be a problem. Ah, it makes me so mad. Speaking
It
of,
makes finding a house very difficult.
yeah. Speaking of which, Amazon launches Amazon Pharmacy for prescription medicine and delivery. Prime members will get perks like free delivery and discount on drugs. I don't want Jeff Bezos knowing my medical history.
But he wants to know so badly.
He
I
really
was going to
does.
say, though, this is good for you, though, because you're saying, like, oh, I don't have any allergy meds to test my allergy theory. And I was
can
like,
just
you
get
could
that
go
from
to the
Amazon.
drive-in at CVS, or you could use Amazon Pharmacy now.
I think there is one really good thing about this, though, and that is if you go to the Amazon Pharmacy and you sign up and you're like, listen, let's just keep the insurance company out of this. Let me just pay for my pills. You get a massive discount.
Do you think Jeff Bezos would do that?
No, they've already announced it.
I mean, is it going to actually work
Oh.
that way?
Yeah, because they don't have to go through all the, like trying to get the money out of the insurance companies. They just get it directly from you, and it's so much easier.
I thought that when they tried to do this, that they were talking about importing drugs from Canada, and the drug companies lost their minds, and they were like, "No, you can't do that, because Canadian drugs are not the same as American drugs, even though they're labeled the same and cost different."
Everyone knows Canadians have completely different biology than Americans.
We've just been sending them sugar pills for decades.
I mean, that was what happened the last time that came up, right? And that was why you didn't have anybody that was doing exactly that already, because I think some people had tried, and that was one of the ways that they were getting lower price medication was by importing it from other countries where it's the same medication, but for some reason it costs completely different.
They didn't mention anything about where they source them, but he could just be cutting out all the margin and being like, okay, if I give you super cheap medicine, I'm bringing you in, you're going to buy something else while you're here.
So it's more akin to like the diapers.com thing where they just want to put everybody
Maybe.
out of business.
Well, yeah, the article mentions there was something called a pharmaceutical delivery startup called PillPack. So that's probably what they're,
Well, they bought them.
yeah, they're definitely trying to expand into that. Also, Kentucky not covered. So never mind. You're going to have to go through the CVS pharmacy.
And the other big thing for you roadside bandits that are getting exciting, no Schedule 2 or higher.
Oh,
Aw.
pro criminal tip. No
That
drugs.
that was a low key pro-criminal tip. That one I almost didn't catch that one.
The perks and the oxys will not be on the Amazon vans. Please do not destroy them.
Yeah. All right, moving right along. Ars Technica has Amazon to begin shifting Alexa's cloud AI to its own silicon, EC2 INF1 instances, Inferentia. That's what Amazon's calling it, Inferentia. There's a video here, you can watch that. Reduce latency and reduce cost for text-to-speech and other types of things like that. So, guess the other
Bad
machine
news
learning
for
players,
NVIDIA.
yeah, machine learning players, I guess, were too expensive. Look at that. Also,
What do you think? What can you do with an AI ASIC after its lifetime is done? You just sell that on a third-party market, or
you probably could. It might be worthless. I've got all those Bitcoin ASICs that.
yeah, that's what I was
worthless.
thinking about.
So, I don't know. I mean, I guess it could be useful for something, but probably not. Because I mean, just how would you do that?
I love how they walk through the Alexa workflow here, and it's like, oh god, it really does just spell out how awful this little spy bot is in your home.
Yeah. Hey Alexa, order me some gummy bears. You're welcome. All right. Cerebras. I hope that's how you pronounce that. wafer-size chip is 10,000 times faster than a GPU. Dr. Cuttress actually has talked to these people before at Anantech, and basically this is just a big old giant wafer. They cut it out, but the chip is designed so that like there's going to be defects. Doesn't matter. They can just use what is there and is defect free, and they don't have to slice it up. They don't have to package it. They don't really have to do much of anything. It's basically good to go when it comes out of the wafer machine. So as fast as they can get wafers is as fast as they can produce these. And I guess the benefit here is that all of the little pieces are all interconnected actually on the silicon already as a matter of design.
1 trillion transistors.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
What if you pull that out and drop it?
Well, you lost 1 trillion transistors.
It's fine.
But
I'll take it.
More
No,
bad
the
news for NVIDIA.
yeah, the machine that these go in is just like a huge stack of them, and I think they have water cooling and some other stuff, so it's pretty crazy. Well, they're made a slice at a time. Like there's the little projector machine that's making these, and it's it's moving the little projector thing, and it's making them a square at a time. But you don't have to bother cutting them out of the silicon or anything like that. It's fine. It's nice. It's good stuff. Switching gears a little bit, Apple to pay a $113 million settlement over its iPhone batterygate slowdowns. The settlement involves the 2017 revelation that Apple was purposely slowing old phones when their batteries began to degrade. Apple says because the phone would shut off because the battery couldn't deliver the energy quickly enough. And so they slowed the phones down so that it was less stress on the battery. But also people, it might have been a thing to motivate you to buy new phones.
It almost certainly was.
Every state gets a different amount. I wonder how they calculate that. Is that like they try to guess the number of people who bought them in that state?
It doesn't seem like this is really very much money. I mean, 113 million is what, like 50 iPhone sales? I mean, this doesn't seem like a lot.
And Arizona, they point out, is only getting 5 million.
Yeah, that doesn't seem correct. I was going to try, I forgot. I was going to try to bring in that LG G5 so that everybody could see how easy it is to replace the battery on that, because it's super thin and it's metal and it feels like a premium phone, and it's old. It's ancient. It's like 5 or 6 years old at this point. And it's got a replaceable battery. There's like this little button you squeeze and the whole bottom of the phone pops off and the battery slides out from like inside the phone. Apple and all of their brilliant engineering knowledge could totally do that. They literally don't want to because they see you as a walking wallet. And that's it. Nothing else. You don't have any individual hopes and dreams. You're just a wallet to them.
You're a customer,
Yeah.
not a person.
Not a
In
person.
all walks of life.
Yeah.
And a data source.
True.
Well,
But you can sell.
the data source is ultimately the roundabout way to get back to your wallet. So, I mean, all roads lead to the wallet.
Or to lead other people to your wallet.
Well, they take a commission on that. So, I mean, again, that's just getting to your wallet with more steps. You can't just enjoy it. Like, you can't just have a product that you genuinely enjoy. There's some aspect of it that's trying to claw its way back into your pocketbook.
Well, listen to you thinking that's your product.
Yeah, it's definitely not if it's constantly phoning home with the certificate nonsense. Oh, yeah, that was another thing that article left out, which is Big Sur has changes so that user-land firewalls can't block that traffic anymore. That's some next level stuff. Well, anyway, Mac rumors. GeForce Now games available on iOS devices through Safari, and Fortnite is coming soon as a result of that. So this is what we've talked about before. This is an article about that, where Safari is sophisticated enough to offer real-time gaming access, like actually in the browser, which is not allowed in the App Store because each individual app would have to be vetted. That sounds crazy every time I say that.
I don't think it's anything about Safari being advanced. All the browsers can do this. This just gets around the crazy rules.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I mean about, like, I don't understand how, now that it's so painfully obvious that it's basically a browser. Like, I don't understand why you can't. It means that you can't have a web browser type application in the App Store, except you can't have a web browser application in the App Store, except it has to use Safari's page rendering engine. But it just seems so arbitrary and weird.
I'm
Also
kinda...
weird.
Oh, you go.
It was weird that mouse and keyboard won't work with this. You have to use a controller.
Yeah, that is weird.
I'm torn on how to feel about this because on one hand, it does kind of screw over Apple a little bit, but on the other, it makes Safari more common, and I don't want that either.
I don't know if this is not exclusive to Safari. So
Yeah.
I guess. Well, no. If you really wanted to play Fortnite and be serious about it, you would still go Android.
Do you think? I guess that probably is true. I bet there are people who, like, when they have a phone upgrade, they look at what would be best so I can play Fortnite.
Oh, absolutely. Because this is still going through the browser. You're still going to get a little bit of latency added to this.
What a weird format to play it.
Remember why Fortnite is not on the iPhone anymore as an app? There's like, Apple's charging 30%. That's too much. We want to pay Apple less money. And then Apple was like, see ya, and they kicked them out, shut down the application, revoked their certificates. It's gotten ugly and bloody. And Epic said, we fight for the user. We want users and small developers to have better rates. And Apple finally said, okay, sounds good. Apple is dropping the App Store fees to 15% with users under 1 million in revenues. So this, of course, does not affect Epic. And is Epic backing down? No, they're not. So
this is it's interesting. I don't think they'll lose a ton of money doing this because that's there's small potatoes that they're dealing with here.
Yeah, this is designed to show that Epic wasn't really only interested in helping out the small developers, because this helps out the small developers a lot. 15% on under $1 million in revenue is a lot of money to an individual. It's not a lot of money to Tim Sweeney and Epic Games. So if you were Apple and you wanted to give Epic what they say they want without actually giving it to Epic, this is exactly how you would do it, because this is not going to make any difference to Epic. 30% of a very large amount of money is a very large amount of money.
You think Android will follow suit?
I bet Google does. I bet they do. I really think ultimately the solution is third-party app stores, though, because third-party app stores would introduce a more sort of quasi-capitalistic competition, and then we would see rates probably around like 5 to 7%, which is probably about where it should be.
Apple's not going to do that.
Apple would definitely not make nearly as much money, but that's where the market needs to be. I mean, ultimately, Apple devices are computers. They're general-purpose computers, and they shouldn't get a 30% grift on any kind of computation that I might choose to do on their hardware.
They don't even let you... I guarantee they're going to go in the other direction, because that new desktop OS is moving further toward that rather than toward freedom.
Yeah, you are right. I mean, the new M1 stuff, ooh, exciting, which is kind of what our next story is about. The macOS Big Sur update is bricking some older Mac Pros. You don't want to hold off until there's a solution. Yeah, resetting the PRAM, resetting the NVRAM. Nope, it just bricks it. In one case, Apple said, mail it to us so we can look at it. It's pretty obvious they didn't test any really old MacBook Pros, because are you a poor person? Why do you have an old MacBook Pro?
Yeah, and they talk about these are from 2013 and 2014. In the Apple world, why would anybody ever use anything made in 2013 or 2014?
Yeah, sort of disturbing. I don't think we had an article for it, but the new M1 MacBooks are out, and they're ARM based, and the performance is pretty good, and the battery life is pretty good, surprisingly, which maybe only underscores how sad x86 was. We should do a video on when Windows tried to go ARM and how that went, because I think what Apple has done so far with Mac going to ARM, it's going a little bit better than when Microsoft did it. Although Microsoft did it first.
We definitely covered the M1 last week.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember.
Remember the 98% headline?
Oh, well, but it's actually out now and people are testing it. That was so the headline this week would be, that was a lie and not actually correct. And while they're really good for some things, they're not really good for other things. So that's new information from last week. So I don't know. All right. The Register has new lawsuit. Why do Android phones mysteriously exchange 260 megs a month with Google via cellular data when they're not even in use? This guy bought a Samsung phone, set it on a table, didn't use it, and it used 260 megs of data.
A month.
That seems like a lot for a phone that's not in use.
It's like $1, I think. But it is or maybe $8. But it is $1 or $8 that like benefits you not at all. Actually probably is bad for you.
Yeah. Why is it doing so much? They also tested iPhones. iPhones used a lot of data too, but not nearly as much.
And if you open a browser, that doubles.
Yeah. Well, it was like 900 requests back to Google or something crazy like that, just by having the browser open. So, what a mess. So, yeah. Well, that's enough of that. YouTube launches audio ads and ad-targetable music lineups, taking aim at Spotify. I don't understand or comprehend music, so I'm hoping one of you two can help me through this.
I've never used YouTube for music. Chrissy, you used to, didn't you?
I used to a long time ago. Like I would just, people would upload music from random obscure places and I would make playlists through it. But then Spotify came along and Spotify is just a smoother experience overall. And they have a pretty big catalog.
I think more to the point, Chris, that it's not that Spotify came along. It's that you got onto a family plan on Spotify.
No, we pay for it.
But I'm saying, like, it's not just you.
It is just me. My husband, he can log in, but he never does. He likes to have all his music himself. He's old school.
Oh, well, can you do like multiple? Oh, you mean like physical copies of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, those CDs are going to be super useful after the EMP.
Yeah.
CDs are immune to an EMP, but not the device that reads them.
Google Music just died. They just put it down. And so now it's YouTube Music, and they're trying to overhaul everything. And they're trying to make it compete with the other, but I don't think it can because it was never built for that.
I think no.
Is this saying that like if you're using YouTube for music and you're on like the music video channels, that you could now have an audio only ad on YouTube?
Well, what they're saying is when people are using YouTube for music videos, they're not looking at it. It's almost always in the background. So audio ads will get around the fact that you're not engaging with those advertisements.
Right. So like when I used to listen to music on YouTube, like I would be working on something else and I would just have YouTube minimized in the background. But the thing that's great with like Spotify, the reason I like it so much is you can download the music and play it on the go without using your data. Unless YouTube does something like that, I don't know that they'll be able to compete as well.
Speaking of Spotify, it's not having anything to do with the story, but I talked about a recent episode of the news that Spotify needs to give me a way to dislike artists and get them out of my feed. Well, someone said you can do that, and I was like, no, you can't. And I looked, and you can't. You can only in the mobile app. What? And according to the Spotify forums, that's just fake. Like, it doesn't actually affect anything.
Wow.
Just makes you feel good.
Wow.
They put it in there for remember R. Kelly when, it turned out he was maybe raping little girls? And people were like, I don't want to ever even see his name. It'll trigger me. I think they did it then, but I don't think it actually works.
Wow. So
I wonder why they don't
YouTube's
put
got
it on
that
desktop. It's strange.
They could do that on YouTube, but YouTube's not going to do that either.
Yeah, I don't know why it's such a hard thing to do.
You know what else is really hard to do? Make batteries that don't catch on fire. Reuters has an article about GM recalling nearly 69,000 Bolt EVs for fire risks. Yeah, 68,677 electric cars. Turns out the Bolt might turn into a lightning bolt.
I love the instructions they gave here. It was like, you should schedule to bring this in and get the update. And in the meantime, you should park it away from your house.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. Like on the street, not in your garage, not near your house. Okay, that's good. Also, in the crazy pandemonium, panic sale, whatever, Coinbase goes down as Bitcoin nears $17,000 per Bitcoin.
Wow.
What's it up to? Oh, it's at 18.8. 18.68.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. It's even.
Yeah, it
gone
jumped another 1,000. It's really, really. I think 19 is the record, right? 19 something,
I thought it was 22 something.
19.6.
Okay.
And I definitely it's got the steam to get there before the end of the year, I guess.
Wow.
I really messed up this sort. I just realized.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. A hacker has stolen $2 million of cryptocurrency from service Acropolis. Cryptocurrency borrowing and lending service Acropolis just said it suffered a flash loan attack. They didn't really say how they suffered this, but they detected the attack fairly quickly and shut it down, but they were still out $2 million in cryptocurrency. They are currently, quote unquote, exploring ways to repay users. They also contacted a bunch of Bitcoin exchanges, and they've been able to sort of track the wallets, and they may be able to, run down whoever did it, but
It was
unfortunate.
Ethereum, but yeah, that wallet has been flagged,
So
blacklisted.
we'll see how that works out for them or not, maybe. I'm not sure. Consumer Reports is no longer recommending Tesla's Model S and is panning the reliability of the new Model Y. So the only Tesla vehicle that's left on Consumer Reports' recommended list is the sedan. So
3.
or the 3. Well, that's the sedan, right?
I guess so. So this is the rear bumper falling off if it gets wet. Little problems with the fit and finish. The screen thing we talked about earlier, and all these little complaints. Oh yeah, remember the one where the roof came off?
Oh yeah, we
And
just
so
forgot to
they're
screw
saying-
that down. That's not a big deal.
They're getting so many of these complaints that they are pulling Tesla off the list.
Surprising, or is it? I don't know. It depends on when they were manufactured. Elon Musk is going to go look at the date of manufacture for all the cars with problems, and he's going to be like, it's the pandemic.
Well, they claim that, and I can totally see this. I can just imagine in my head the scene going down inside of Tesla. So they're putting a lot of electronic consumer grade stuff in these cars, but you never do that in a car. You put automotive grade stuff in a car because it's different. And you can imagine Musk sitting there and it's like, no, we will use these. They're cheaper and they're just as good. You wait and see.
I know it's funny you say that, but the Model 3, the screen on it, the first version of the Model 3 screen was totally a consumer screen, but the touch screen and the display were different. And how they fixed that was to fill the thing with epoxy. Well, in UV light, which is what you get when the car is outside and it also gets hot, it turns yellow. So the first set of Model 3 screens turned this horrible yellow, and then later versions, they fixed that. They put some kind of UV cure in it, but then when it gets hot, it reliquefies. So it would just slowly run out of your screen, and there would be this sort of frozen gel liquid in your screen. There's some amazing pictures of that online. It's incredible, but it is exactly because they were like, we don't want to use an automotive grade LCD screen. They cost too much. We'll engineer our way around that problem, and engineering their way around that problem created more problems. It's kind of funny.
It's like they didn't design it to be outdoors at all.
Yeah. Who knew?
Exposed to sunlight and other elements.
Another not a good exactly thing for Tesla this week is Tesla crash sends batteries and car parts flying into nearby homes, which subsequently burned those homes down.
They didn't burn down. They just started small fire.
I was gonna say I don't remember that part.
They the car wrecked so badly that parts of the battery were flying around, and if you have one of those batteries, a fire extinguisher doesn't work. You have to put it in a bucket with sand in it. That's about the only thing that you can do. So pro tip?
How about stoned? I don't know if that means drunk or high, and going 100 miles per hour.
Wow, that's a lot. It's no wonder the car just disintegrated.
Yeah, really. But that does raise questions of what about how long is it going to take to clean up a battery spill on an interstate when a Tesla crashes?
It's a big giant truck full of sand.
Yeah, but that's going to shut the road down for half a day.
No, you just hoist it into a flatbed full of sand and you're good to go.
Who touches it?
You're going to do that? Who's going to do that?
Yeah.
There are trucks that do that.
Now you got to get that truck from where?
Yeah, it's about 2 hours to get there from wherever it is, probably.
Yeah.
So not a great situation. You know what else is not a great situation? The cost of cable TV. Oh, in this case, Hulu, which is kind of like the modern cable TV.
This was supposed to be the savior.
Hulu hikes prices of live TV packages by $10 per month. That wasn't the most surprising thing in this article. The ad-supported versus not ad-supported version of Hulu, the price difference there is like $10. If you're paying $60 a month for TV and it's ad-supported, like, first of all, I wouldn't do that. But second of all, $10 more for no ads? Who wouldn't do that?
I didn't realize Hulu had gone up that much at all. I mean, I guess it's the live TV package, but like 64. I mean, you're just paying for cable at that point. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, that's dumb. That's
Well,
really
that's
dumb.
the live one though, Chris says. So
Yeah.
you can still get the old school Hulu for, I think it's like $6 with ads.
I find
Yeah.
ads so hateful now that like
Yeah.
the idea of paying for a service that has ads, like just why?
And it's not even $10, it's like $8. So do those advertisers just not pay anything for ads? I don't, it seems like that should be more. You should take more off with no ads.
I imagine if they can be blocked, a lot of people just do that.
Well, speaking of things that were blocked and then unblocked, GitHub reinstates YouTube DL library after EFF intervention. GitHub also establishes a $1 million developer defense fund to help open source developers fight against the abuse of DMCA Section 1201 takedown claims. This went pretty much the way that we called it. They made some minor changes to the documentation of YouTube DL, and that's pretty much it. And the changes to the documentation no longer provide an example of downloading a Taylor Swift song to confirm that YouTube DL works correctly. And that is sufficient to satisfy the requirement under the law. And if not, the EFF is prepared to go toe-to-toe here. But Microsoft, they put $1 million in a developer protection fund. I think that's kind of nice.
Yeah, but they're just doing that to save face because people were really, like giving them a hard time about it.
Yeah, but they didn't have to do that either.
Also, why couldn't they have done the same legal research that the EFF did in the first place?
Yeah, that's true. The EFF did a good job here, which is nice. You know what else would be nice? $6 billion for your Linux distro. $6 billion in the Linux deal. SUSE IPO rumored at $6 billion. The European Linux company may soon be spun out at $6 billion. Remember when Red Hat was sold for like $1 billion? And I was like, wow, that's a lot of money for Red Hat. Apparently not. Apparently money just grows on trees these days.
Well, we are in a cheap money lending environment for sure.
So yeah, $6 billion IPO.
And tech IPOs, I don't think a lot of investors even look at what it is. They're just like, oh yeah, I need that.
This is one of the big three. It's what is it? Red Hat, and then Ubuntu, Canonical, and SUSE. Like those are the big three basically. And now Oracle technically owns Red Hat, which is that gives me nightmares.
I could see, with things going toward Internet of Things and all the various ways that you're going to have to run operating systems in unexpected places, owning this could be valuable.
$6 billion valuable?
No.
They're going to have to they're going to demand so much return from that distro that I think that's going to lead to problems.
Yeah, but that's problems for the next set of investors.
Well, they have to. That was SUSE's problem in the beginning, was that the sale was in the billions of dollars, so they need a return, and so it's just it's a really terrible game of hot potato, I think. But ultimately, this I don't know. It'd be nice to know from SUSE insiders if they think this is a good thing or not.
Depends on whether or not they have options.
Yes, this is a very good thing. I have now retired. I was like, well, but you're not working on it anymore. That doesn't count. All right, so it's fine. AI researchers made a sarcasm detection model, and it's so impressive. It actually is impressive. That was sarcasm. That was.
What a great image for the top of this article.
You think that's the article author?
Well, they point out the thing about this is that it cannot work just on voice. It needs that image because it's trying to find dissonance between the expression and the tonality of the voice.
At first, I wondered if this was going to be like, the trend where it's like they just repeat something back, but they alternate the capitalization of the letters to indicate sarcasm. I was like, oh, that's probably how it works. But no, it does use the image.
Yeah, it's actually
And
kinda
video.
good. So, seems like the people think it works pretty well. But I want real world examples. I want to be able to like poke at it and see it. And
Well, they got. Did you see the pizza image there they got and the sports arena?
yeah.
So it's like, but that doesn't look appetizing.
Oh, it is a joke.
I kind of get it. I thought the next one was much more impressive. Google's SoundFilter AI separates any sound or voice from mixed audio recordings. Oh, and it's Kyle Wiggers. Nice. There's examples in this article. There's the first one doesn't really make any sense to me, but the second one is really very impressive because it's two people talking at once, and that you give the AI a sample of the person's voice that you want to hear, and then it can pull it out of two people talking at the same time, which is crazy.
This is going to be huge for, like soundboards and stuff like that. Because you could pull something perfectly clean from a movie.
Oh, I can have my Star Trek soundboard. Yes.
The dream.
But will I live to see it? No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't think they're giving us access to this yet. Maybe coming soon.
Yeah, not here yet. Not quite. Kind of like Friday's episode of the news. It's not quite here, but it's close. It's coming.
Something to look forward to in 2020. Or maybe 2021.
Woo! We still got to do drunk news at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're running out of time for that.
Well, I mean, Christmas is what? A month and a half away? So, I mean, we got a little bit of time, but...
Not a half.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is. It's end of November.
You got 1 week left.
The
Oh.
the news for the week after Thanksgiving might also be a little bit delayed because we might not shoot until that Monday. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. I mean, not like any of us are planning on going anywhere, really, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's just plan on the news being weird that week. I'm just telling you now. But it should be fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna have dinner with my parents, but it'll just be that day.
It's exciting times.
You not want to go Black Friday shopping during a plague?
No, and they told me, they were like, "Hey, we're not shopping this year, so we're just gonna send you an Amazon list."
Just order everything on Amazon. It's fine. All right.
I've got to finish doing my Christmas shopping.
We'll see you Friday.
Bye, chat. 1, 2, 3. Hello, everybody. Today is November 27th, and today we're doing social media and nonsense.
Woo! I'm still alive. It's probably allergies. It's probably fine.
Oh, you know what?
Oh,
There's also one design story, I think.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Was there?
Google Pay redesigned.
I don't remember where I put it.
You got to go look at that. It's there
Oh,
somewhere.
yeah, it's in there. It's the TechCrunch one, the green.
If you work for Facebook, you can complain that the company's asking them to risk your life, which is what our first story is. Gadget says Facebook moderators say that the company is asking them to risk their lives. They say Facebook's AI is years away from being effective, and these moderators have to go into the office. And that's bad during a pandemic.
Not only about the pandemic, but they said that, if you remember, Facebook decided to go with the AI. Well, they mentioned that here. And they brought these guys back, and they were like, hey, listen, don't worry. The whole, like, murdering lizards and child pornography and stuff like that, the AI is totally going to catch that. You won't get PTSD from that anymore. And according to them, the AI catches almost none of it.
You should hear Ron Howard's voice saying, that was not true.
I don't understand, like, what possible excuse Facebook would have to have people come in right now, because this seems like this would be ideal work to be done remotely.
It might be the nature of the material. Like, you're not allowed to just broadcast that into people's homes.
Yeah.
Like, what if you have a kid at home?
What
When
if
they come in to visit on their lunch break, and then they're like, "Oh, Dad, what are you looking at?"
It's you guys have the best possible. No, let me go a lot darker for you. It's to prevent a situation happening where a moderator sees something so horrific that they whip out their phone and re-record it using their phone and then pan the camera around and be like, look what I'm forced to watch in order to get paid, which will immediately go viral.
That's probably true. It is probably just like they probably check their phone in when they come into the building.
Yeah, that is the only reason.
They got an exit screen by a psychologist or something.
That's the only reason that they don't work from home. That right there. And that's depressing. Speaking of depressing things, Reuters has an article about Twitter launching disappearing fleets worldwide. Twitter also had some other unpopular changes, like adding circles at the top because, hey, you need to tell your story on Twitter. No one liked that.
No one likes that. No.
I do not understand the appeal of the time-limited social media posts. I don't understand it at all.
The Reuters article author went out of their way to try to explain that. And as I understood it, it was you have people, like 90% of people on social media don't really participate. It's just like 10% are the attention whores or whatever. And psychologists, I guess, are saying that part of the reason for that is because it's so permanent. And maybe people might participate if they knew that whatever they posted was going to disappear in a day or so.
But there's no such thing as that. If it's something that will piss other people off, they will screenshot it and they will share that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, just, I don't know. It's like, hey, I'm going to have some spaghetti. Oh, I don't think that needs to be permanently memorialized on the thing that contains the sum of, all human knowledge, that you're particularly proud of the spaghetti that you were able to make for yourself last night.
But it's probably more important than 90% of what's on Twitter.
Speaking of which, Twitter also named the famous hacker Mudge. Oh, no, It's frozen. It's frozen.
Oh.
No, it's frozen.
Is it gone forever?
There we go. It's back.
Hey, everybody.
This is the Reuters article. Twitter names famous hacker Mudge as head of security. Mudge is the real deal. He has the professional pedigree. He knows what he's doing. This is going to be really interesting. And the article points out correctly that Twitter has had a lot of security problems lately from within. Like, remember the whole Biden and Bill Gates Bitcoin scam? That was employees. That was employees doing things that they should not have been doing. So Mudge has got an uphill battle ahead of him.
Do you think this headshot that they've got over here in front of the flag, the way it's cropped, do you think that makes him look kind of like Tobey Maguire's slightly developmentally challenged brother?
I'm not seeing it. He looks a little bit like the guy who was in Ex Machina in this photo. Like an older version of him.
I think this makes him look like Tobey Maguire's older, more down-to-earth, brother or whatever. It's
maybe.
I don't know. But it's funny because if you've seen other pictures of him from earlier in his life, is super long hair and he looked completely different. He looked like a hippie.
Oh, he's gone corporate. Well, they listed his recent employment, and he's been corporate for a while.
Even when he was in the cult of the dead cow, he also worked for the government. So it was kind of funny because it was wait a minute, you were going on DEF CON and doing all this really super disruptive stuff. Meanwhile, you were also working on classified projects. And he's like, can't talk about it. It's kind of funny. You never know. YouTube cancels rewind video amid pandemic.
Oh,
I said the word.
So.
This has been so popular in recent years.
This is the only thing, I wasn't expecting this because rewind has been so tone deaf for the last forever. So this is actually a good move. Good job.
Well, I think they sort of how can we possibly make anything that isn't just going to get trashed? Because what are we going to talk about? It's just going to be everything bad that's happened this year. Who wants to be reminded of that?
Speaking of bad things, YouTube will now run ads on smaller creators' videos without paying them. It will now serve ads even on videos not a part of the partner program. That also means Blender videos. Remember Blender? The Blender Foundation has all these videos that show stuff about Blender and really amazing projects with Blender. Those are not monetized. And remember, it was probably been 6 months or a year ago, those videos were taken down. And the Blender Foundation was like, that's weird. YouTube deleted our videos. And it was because they got a lot of traffic, but YouTube couldn't monetize them. So they were like, we're not making any money on these videos. Let's delete them. And then it was like, oh, that was the Blender Foundation. Wow, they're going to get a lot of attention. Okay, let's reinstate them. So this is, from that edge case, this is the result. YouTube is like, you know what? We're going to run on ads on your videos whether you want to or not.
Every day, the masses cry out for replacement, and none are forthcoming.
A couple have tried, but it's such a massive, massive thing to go against.
Yeah, it's difficult. Check us out on Floatplane.
Yeah, Floatplane has been really amazing in terms of like infrastructure and video delivery. So it does take a lot to build something like that, though. You know what it doesn't take a lot to build? A Twitter clone. Parler. Parler's facing the same constraints conservatives fled on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So this article on MSNBC talks about how people have been banned from Parler. And like one of the more funny examples of that is the guy that actually owns Parler fighting the conspiracy theory that, Soros owns Parler?
This is a this is an opinion article, as it says at the top, but Mark Ambinder is really wearing his political affiliation on his sleeve with this one. Yeah. Get the impression he doesn't like Parler.
Well, he's got a point that, Parler is going to have to. It's like, I don't know why he didn't really talk about it, but what was it? The paradox of intolerance guy? I can't remember his name. I could have remembered it an hour ago, and now it's gone.
Oh, you've got the vid fog.
No!
No!
The only thing that must not be tolerated is intolerance. And so that's kind of what he's talking about here, is like the paradox of intolerance. So you will have crazy people and conspiracy theories, and you have to ban them. You have to do something. And that's like, I'm not really sure that's true, but one of the things that went crazy on Parler was that it wasn't owned by the guy that owned it. And he's like, no, I need to intervene here because, I'm not part of the Illuminati. The Illuminati don't own this. And it's like, oh, that's exactly what the Illuminati would pay you to say. So,
but I think, why you could just let that fly. Who cares? We definitely need something that is, you look back at 4chan, and I suppose there were criminal things being posted there. That's where the line has to be. You move the line at all, then you're playing right at the same game as all the other guys. What's the point?
I wish there was some kind of a thing to be like, oh, yes, this person is a crazy person. Let me just make a note here to myself. I flagged them as a crazy person so that when I see their posts in the future, it's like, oh, that's that guy from that other site that's a crazy person.
That's called the unfollow. I'm friends with some of my family members, but I've unfollowed a couple during election season because of that.
I clicked on a YouTube video, not realizing what the channel was, and now my feed is just flooded with Newsmax. But I kind of like Newsmax because if you watch Newsmax and then you go and you watch CNN, you see the two extremes.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, none of this is true. But somewhere in between there is truth. And I can now look in between these two extremes and try to find what might be real. Maybe we need that for social media, right? We just need two social media companies that are unapologetically biased.
I do kind of like with the Parler stuff, like they kind of advertise themselves as like a non-censored version of like 4chan or something, and now it's like, oh wait, 4chan was terrible, and it's like, did you not know your internet history here? Did you not realize where this was going to go? Like,
it's going to be bad, really. There's going to be people that are just trying to find where that line is. Like, they're not actually interested in talking.
Or it's going to be people from the other camp who are just like, yeah, let's go in here and make some noise. Let's try to shut this thing down.
Yeah, people that are intentionally disruptive. Oh, man. I deal enough with that in daily life. Jesus. Not good. Speaking of things that maybe were taken out of context and or really deeply disturbing, depending on how you look at it, the Vatican has announced that they're investigating the Pope's Instagram account after model's content is liked. The story of the official Pope Francis Instagram account liking an Instagram model's schoolgirl outfit photo isn't going away.
Ooh.
A little tone deaf there.
They got a lot of Instagram embeds, this young lady down here, and she is something.
It only showed me one. The rest were all like, view this on Instagram.
No, just keep scrolling.
Yeah, it's just I'm not gonna put that on YouTube, but yeah, I don't know. Weird.
I can see how the Holy Father might have a moment of weakness there.
Was it him or one of his aides?
Yeah, do you think he actually runs his own Instagram?
Probably.
Embarrassing either way.
Probably not.
Probably not. Probably doesn't run his own Instagram. Probably it was another one of those situations like we saw with that senator last week, where he was pretending to be the black gay guy or former senator or politician. The politician.
Oh yeah.
Probably another one was like, oh man, I was on the wrong Instagram account. Oh no. So
Forgot to log out. Yeah, but what do you think happens to that guy?
he gets a stern talking to.
I think it might be worse than that.
Yeah. Like, that's a pretty big. If your only job is to manage someone's social media and you do something like this, that's probably a fireable offense, right?
Yeah, that's not great. But our next story, Krista, it's all you.
It is. It's a design story. Google Pay gets a major redesign with a new emphasis on personal finance. I have not used Google Pay, so I can't speak too much to the functionality. It does look very nice based on the screenshots here. It looks usable. Only complaint, if you scroll down, there's a picture of a graph here in the middle of some of these mock-ups. If you include a graph in a design, always include a key to explain what each thing means, because otherwise it's just kind of a visual element and it's not really useful.
I do really hate this because there's the lack of labels, and then you have to explain to somebody that's like you need to label the graph.
I mean, I can suss out based on reading all this text that like
Yeah, it's contextual. That's per week.
Yeah, per week, but it's always nice to make it more clear, because I could see someone looking at this and the user is always stupider than you might expect, and being like, I don't understand this.
But the whole point of this is Google Pay used to just be like, hey, show this to the barcode scanner and this is how you pay. But they added all this like management stuff. So this is all new. This
is probably a competitor to Mint, if you're familiar with that, which was like a banking app that also kind of tracked your stuff like this. This looks really good. It's slick.
Do you think Google will be more responsible?
Sorry, what?
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Oh, I was going to say, do you think this will make people spend more responsibly?
No.
Yeah.
So here's the terrifying thing about it. If you scroll down to, I mean, it's difficult to tell, but there's an animated image down there, and one of the screenshots that shows people. So are you like posting your financial stuff in some sort of social type setting?
Nope. I'm gonna nope right out of that.
I'm gonna assume that's a way so you could transfer cash to like friends. So like if you went out to eat and you wanted to go Dutch.
It says
or,
new
like,
payment or group. So yeah, I guess that does seem to sort of point to that. But I imagine it will let you share certain things too, right? Like, oh, I made rent this month.
Good job.
Bob earned an extra 1% on his 401k in the last 6 months. I was like, ooh, Bob, what did you do?
Click here to ask Bob to loan you money.
I mean, that is exactly what it's doing. I do kind of like these things. So like my bank has like a feature where you can look at like graphs and stuff, and you can see what categories you spend the most in each month. Mine is almost always rent is the biggest, but I mean, that kind of stuff is interesting. I'm not so into the social aspect of it, but neat.
You know what else is neat? This BMW wingsuit. Up and away. BMW designers' first electric wingsuit can fly up to 186 miles an hour. It can actually climb, but it's only got about, 5 minutes of power?
Yeah, that's the big negative. 5 minutes.
Yeah. So.
Interesting, though, they figured out that your chest is like the fulcrum point where you want thrust when you're flying as a human being. We always thought it'd be on our backs, but no.
He doesn't look. They could have picked a better press photo. He doesn't look real happy. He's not smiling real big in this.
He's like, ah!
What he's thinking right there is, I'm not ready for the pictures yet.
So they had another picture of it here somewhere.
None of the pictures look real happy. They just kind of look, look epically into the sun.
Yeah, it doesn't look comfortable at all. It's like, I'm lugging around 50 pounds of equipment here. Woo.
I can't imagine, like, you got to put that horrible suit on, and then you got to trudge up a mountain for 5 minutes of fun.
Not great. We've got a follow-up to something we reported like 5 or 6 episodes ago in our next story.
Literally last week.
Charlie Brown holiday special to air on TV, after all, in PBS deal. So we reported that it was coming to Apple TV only. Nope, PBS is also going to send it over the air.
But only because there was such outrage.
That's
So
good,
people
I guess.
want their Charlie Brown. You think about actually watch it after they've gotten it now?
No.
Most people watch it. I mean, usually we watch it every year.
This is an historic moment for our next story. The Wall Street Journal is talking about anime. The world is watching more anime, and streaming services are buying. Netflix has 16 projects in the works from its Tokyo-based team, and is and as the pandemic lifts demand. I think it's just because people have literally run out of stuff to watch on Netflix, and this is the least terrible stuff on Netflix.
Is that ultimately going to be the thing that the pandemic does to us? Is it's going to turn us all into weebs?
I mean, I watched Avatar. That's like diet weeb. I'm on that's a gateway drug.
That might explain why it's avoiding. It's Japan is healthy now, so maybe that was the design of the thing all along.
But what about Australia? They've banned this.
They're the last bastion of freedom. Like you haven't been genetically modified by the thing, so you're exiled to Australia. So I don't know. You know who else might try to flee but can't because he's not genetically allowed? It's Elon Musk says he most likely has a moderate case of the thing. Remember last week when we were reporting on his tweets? Well, this is the tiny micro progression of that. So I wonder if he's quarantining properly.
What if you have to room with him at the FEMA camp?
Oh.
That would be funny. And it would be kind of a great equalizer, wouldn't it? But what was the great equalizer of the Greatest Generation? There was something, I don't know.
I think that would never happen because he would just go to one of the hospitals that he owns.
It's like, no, this is mine now. So it's kind of ironic because he's one of the people that has sown doubt about the thing.
But he still is, because now he's saying that the tests are not accurate.
And I think he went and saw the Space Force folks. So there was like worry about that. He'd been in meetings with people in Germany, like, GG.
Yeah, not a good situation. It was also not a good situation the other week in Montreal at the Ubisoft offices. Montreal police say that there was no threat at the Ubisoft offices after a hoax 911 call. So since the emergency services showed up, briefly it was in the news, it was all over Twitter, but it was just a hoax. Everybody was safe, nothing bad, mostly.
I'm surprised this happened to Ubisoft and not CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, really. I mean, that is kind of surprising.
Has Ubisoft delayed a game or something?
Sort of crazy. The next one, there's a LinkedIn job posting for a White House food taster. We're not totally sure if it's real. Does this date from a time when it's like, I don't know what to make of this.
Yeah, well, why would you post that as a joke? Who would post that as a joke?
Has that been a thing, like, in 200 years? Like,
Well, they go through it. They go through the history here, and they say that it seems like maybe George W. Bush and Reagan had them.
Huh.
Wow.
But they use the phrase corn pops, and that's like Biden's thing. So that might point more to it being a joke. I don't know.
I don't know.
How much do you think that pays?
A lot. It doesn't matter. Even if it only paid $5 an hour, getting that sweet, sweet government retirement would be worth it.
But do you have to be on call all day? Are you getting paid all day? Or do you show up at like certain times and
Meal
taste?
times, yeah.
Probably a little bit of both. I wonder if it would be like Princess Bride, where the guy is immune to most forms of poison because he's built up an immunity over the years.
And I don't understand, like, why would they hire a human? Shouldn't they use lizards?
I think also this doesn't really work in the era of Putin, because remember with like polonium, you're fine for a long time, and then you're not. And then you're very, very not fine.
Biden is only eating like week-old food that's been tasted. previously.
But tasted like a month ago. Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, it turns out you're radioactive now. No, how do we get that out of there? It's like, no.
Maybe that's why Ajit Pai only eats Reese cups. That's in the canon now. I've just thrown that out in the fanfic universe.
I don't think that's what's in the cup, Chris. I think it's coffee.
No, he's just eating cereal the whole time.
The nonsense stories this week are in ascending order of insanity. The NFL will hold a virtual Pro Bowl this year with players competing in the Madden video game. Will they be playing themselves?
That's delicious.
Yeah, I think.
So good.
I don't know how many people can multiplay. I guess every player can be their own character in that game, which is interesting. And they still get all the bonus and everything as if they were actually going to be there, but it's going to be all online.
Just think of all the people for years who are like, video games and esports, they're not a real thing. But then this year they're going to watch this and they're going to tune in and be like, yeah, no, it's totally cool.
Well, Madden is already very popular with the normies. Also, do you remember the story about NASCAR did this and the one guy cheated?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of cheating, oh, what an excellent lead-in. Billy Mitchell takes his Donkey Kong high score cheating case to court. Newly revealed Twin Galaxies defamation suit has been quietly proceeding for months. So, yeah, this is probably not news to you if you've been following Level 1 news for a while, but this is an impossibly high score, maybe, but not really, in Donkey Kong. And so he was the high score record holder, and then he wasn't. And I think we need to solve this in Level 1 style. We need to build an AI that plays Donkey Kong to see what the maximum possible score in Donkey Kong is.
Well, if you had watched The King of Kong, Wendell, you would not make such a foolish statement because it's different for every board and when it was manufactured.
Oh, wow. So he was playing on a particular board that allowed a super high score or something?
According to Twin Galaxy, he was playing on a modified board and or an emulator. So the thing about it is, like, Twin Galaxies, they're not like the government. They don't have to say that, this is absolutely true. They can kind of make up their own decision. It's their own little thing that they created. What his argument is, by taking him off the list, they are saying, in some way that he cheated, and that's libel, which I don't think is a very good case.
Yeah, it seems like that wouldn't end well.
I think he might still be the Guinness record. And it's only Twin Galaxies that doesn't consider him the best. But Twin Galaxies is like, in this world, it's the end-all be-all of scores.
That seems like way more information about that than no one human being should ever know.
You got to watch that movie because it really, it is something that is so absolutely meaningless, but they treat it with the utmost gravitas.
Wow.
There's this great scene where this, super nerdy guy is just running around. They're having a convention where it's all just, arcade machines. And he's running around, pulling out people's sleeves. It's like, there's going to be a kill screen. Tell everybody there's going to be a kill screen. It's like, that really means something to him.
I want to say one of our editors is really into this because I remember when we first started talking about this story, I think I had a conversation with him about it. And he was like, oh, no, it's crazy. And he went all into the theories about it. I'll have to ask him about it. I think it was him.
It's a good movie. It's an entertaining movie because they do it with such, they treat it as if it's something very serious.
You know what else is very serious? The situation in Hong Kong. No, it's not Hong Kong. It's Thailand.
No. Thailand, yeah.
Sorry. My bad. Thai protesters are using inflatable ducks against water cannons. It's only a matter of time before those show up in Hong Kong.
And here, probably.
This is smart because, you're going out to protest and you could probably fit one of those things in a little backpack really easily when it's not inflated.
And then you inflate it real quick and it's like, ooh, look at that.
I don't know how quick you'd inflate it. Maybe they got an air compressor out there somewhere.
That's what kills me, watching the protests here is look at this slideshow. These people are prepared. They're wearing helmets. They got goggles on. They're carrying around inflatable ducks. And our protesters do not do that.
There's no question, but they've had a lot of years, Krista, to get used to this kind of thing and adapt.
Yeah.
We're kind of new at the protest game.
There's a picture of a guy with just a plastic bag over his head.
I think last week I wondered what had happened to this guy, and this week, is that why that's in here? Or did this just come up recently in the news?
Well, the ducks?
No, the next.
Yeah. That's just total coincidence.
Wow.
Because I think we thought he died.
We did, yeah, I did. A Chinese man who sold his kidney to buy an iPhone now needs dialysis to survive. He was 17 in 2011, sold his kidney. He is currently bedridden and attached to a dialysis machine after suffering renal deficiency. Poor guy.
But I wonder if this is the same guy, because we weren't doing this in 2011. And when we did that story, it had just happened, right?
I thought so.
So there might be more than one instance of this, which is even sadder.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not very much return on investment, because I imagine that iPhone is probably long gone at this point, but the dialysis is forever.
Unless he gets a replacement, right? Like another kidney. Someone donates one to him.
How ironic is that?
Yeah.
You got to imagine that he's still using that phone and he's like super depressed and it's just barely working. And then Apple comes out with that update that slows it down because the battery's worn out. And it's just
It just so happens that his battery deteriorates at exactly the same pace as his other kidney.
Yeah. It's what a dark timeline.
We got an iPhone 4 and an iPad 2. Wow.
Mom demands babysitter pay hundreds for emotional damage after feeding kids chicken nuggets.
As she should.
Just people.
Can you imagine what a nightmare?
So this girl, she's 19 years old. She goes on, Facebook or Craigslist or something. It's like, hey, I'll come and watch your kids. And they don't, she points out, it's like, these kids were angels. They did everything she asked. They were pleased and thank you. And she was like, wow, I want to really do something for these kids. So she asked them, she was like, what food do you want? I will give you any food that you want. And they were like, oh God, we need McDonald's chicken nuggets. And so she was like, all right, well, it's a little weird, but, and then she even paid for them with her own money. She was like, I want to treat these kids because they make my life so easy. And then the mom walked in on it. And turns out those kids are involuntary vegetarians.
Well, that's not going to last much longer with one of them being 9.
And the fact that they already are trying to source McDonald's any way they can.
Yeah.
So the mom claimed that she needed $600, $300 each for the emotional damage of the 2 kids.
That just seems insane.
This came up, I guess. It came up on Reddit, on the subreddit, Am I the Asshole? I love that subreddit. Nothing will make you feel better about yourself more than browsing Am I the Asshole?
At least her children are well behaved, but at the same time, I have to wonder what lasting psychological damage those kids have.
Well, if it meant that much to you, wouldn't you say something at the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you miss that?
Oh, by the way, we're a vegan household. No outside food.
I guess they didn't have any meat in the house, but the kids clearly immediately saw an opportunity and they were like, please, we need protein.
Well, and they're old enough that, like, they probably knew the rules and purposely were like, no, we want to go eat meat.
I'm trying to think. I want to say growing up, it wasn't a vegetarian situation, but growing up, I can definitely think of a couple of times where somebody would be over visiting at the house, and I was soda. It was like, oh, I'm not allowed to have soda at my house, and it's like, well, would you like to have? We got Pepsi and Coke, and it's like, you have Pepsi and Coke, and it was like, dude, you just slow down. You've had like 4 Pepsis, and he's like, I don't get these at all. So I definitely experienced that growing up.
Yeah, but I don't know. What do you think the moral standing is in terms of forcing your children to be vegetarian?
I mean, that's just about like anything else. I mean,
Is
it's not necessarily, yeah, like there's all kinds of like weird things that you eat that you find out later in life. You're like, oh, was that something that was like specific to my family? And like, vegetarianism is not the worst thing in the world.
But these kids clearly don't like it.
Yeah. Well, and they're at the age too, like at 7 and 9, that they can start having more of a say. So it's weird that
it can still things can get weird in unexpected ways. Like my diet as a kid was not bad, but there were some things that were not right. And when I went to the doctor, he's like, well, let's just try to give you a multivitamin, because I was kind of short. And then they gave me like the Flintstones chewable vitamins, and then I grew like a foot in that year. So weird stuff can happen, not as a result of anybody's deliberate malice or deliberately being crazy, but just not understanding things.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of arguments, and this will be an engagement comment. There are a lot of arguments that vegetarian, you do lack a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
You have to be a lot more mindful about like where you're getting your protein sources.
Yeah, not all the stuff is the same, because like the artificial vitamins are different. Like your body absorbs them differently than like when you eat.
Are these are vegetarians, right, and not vegans? I feel like veganism is really hardcore. It's a struggle.
Yeah, I think they
to
said
get
vegetarian.
Yeah, vegetarian's a little bit easier, but still. I mean, the kids are old enough that they can start making a few decisions, especially in this case where it's like a social thing. Like, I know some families where they're like, we don't really give our kids sugar, but like they still let their kids trick or treat because it's a social thing.
But
you know what I mean,
based on this story, do you think this mother's going to give them any autonomy?
No.
probably not. No,
No.
not if she had this sort of extreme reaction.
Here's the ultimate question. Will these kids be allowed to get McPlant?
Oh yeah, maybe they don't eat any McDonald's. Maybe it was just because it was McDonald's. You think if she'd done like some Tyson chicken nuggets, it would have been all right?
No. She said it was absolutely because it was meat.
It's just meat.
But McPlant is also going to be some garbage food.
Yeah.
But it's not meat, so maybe that's okay in the mom's eyes.
There's gonna
We
be a
should
lot-
really, we should have this OP, text the mom and be like, if I had got them a McPlant, would that have been better?
This is definitely this week's angry commenter engagement challenge.
Man.
They're all typing. Can you guys hear that?
Hey, it's
Good
good.
sound.
Engagement, it's good for the algorithm. Thank you for engaging.
You filthy vegetarians. Now go back under your rock. She
More
wants some
power
more.
to 'em. I don't know that I could do it, but I'm fascinated by people who have that kind of willpower.
Well, that brings us to the end of that. A happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Remember, the news is going to be weird next week. Go work on your Linode project and let us know what it is, because you can win stuff. All right. We'll see you next
All
week,
right.
probably.
Hopefully. Bye!